Okay, a very good morning to you all. My name is Brian Parker, and I'm here today to do to deliver the AFI group webinar on familiarization films. Thank you very much for attending. I know it's a warm day. Hopefully you're in a nice air-conditioned room. I will say I'm not in an air-conditioned room, so it might get a bit hot and sweaty in here, certainly if any technical issues. But yeah, I'm the Business Development Manager, Technical Support for AFI Group of Companies. Running time for this webinar is approximately 45 minutes, 40 to 45 minutes, and with a Q&A session at the end. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the webinar. And what you do, if you look down the bottom there, you can type your questions in, and I'll endeavour to answer as many as I possibly can during that time. Those that I cannot answer, I will answer after the webinar, so you'll get a response from me afterwards. And also as well, should you have any feedback or anything that you want to ask, maybe don't want to mention it on the webinar, please feel free to contact me to discuss anything that you actually put forward. So yeah, more than happy to help and support you as much as we possibly can. Okay, just a little bit about myself. Obviously, as you would expect, I've got various qualifications, and I took to put them all in there. But more importantly, I deal a lot with the Strategic Forum Plant Safety Group, which is a CPA organisation that deals with MEWP safety. Also recently, I've just been co-opted onto the BSI committee for the BS 8460, which is a MEWP Code of Practice. So this is it was last written in 2005, so it's well due an update. As with the sort of the hard times we've had of late, you can understand why it's not been reviewed. So we're well on with that document. We're hoping it's going to be available towards the latter part of 2017. I've been an IPAF training committee member for more years than I can remember. I mean, I was also previous past chairman, and as we'd expect within IPAF, I've been an instructor for for some 19-20 years now. My background, I started off my sort of after school life, if you want to call it, Royal Engineers. So I'm an ex-plant operator, so that's how I got into hydraulics and moving plant, etc. Back in 1990. And from a committee point of view, very much one of my roles as business development manager is to represent the industry and of course our company on committees that are in the UK. So you can see that I'm a UK country council member. I do sit on various groups, working groups that have basically been directed by the country council to put together documents that hopefully will make life a little bit easier for your good selves. As I mentioned, the training committee, rental plus committee, and I'm also involved with the HAE, Hire Association Europe, and sit on the health and safety technical committee, and recently just been voted onto the PASMA training committee. So I like to think that I'm kind of getting involved. I'm one of these people that do try to get involved and try and improve things. I've been quite vocal in some of these things. So appreciate if you have any comments on anything, then please feel free to to get in touch with me. So today's agenda, what we're going to look at is what is familiarization, and I'm sure some of you will already know that. But we're also going to look at some legal responsibilities. Where it started for us as a journey. Taking on familiarization is never an easy task, and it's probably one that a lot of people will probably have thought you're a bit mad doing it, but hey ho, we went on with it, and hopefully you'll see some ideas of what we've come out with today. We're going to look at our plan, what our rationale really was for doing these, and then we're going to get into a bit of the films. Kind of show you a few of these films, get you to understand what they are, and more importantly how you can use them to improve safety for MEWPs on your sites. We're going to look at the perceived benefits that we believe as a group would perceive you as managers, safety managers, clients, and of course operators. And then we'll have a little bit about the website and how you can access some of these things, and then what's next for me really in that sense, what we're looking at next. As I say, if you've got any questions at all as we go through it, feel free to type in there, and then we can I can try and answer them a little bit later on. So, issue of familiarization then, MEWP familiarization, has been around for many years. For the 20 years that I've been involved with MEWPs, it's gone from not doing it, offering it, what is it to, what we've ended up with today. And really a bit of a history. In the early days, familiarization was often provided by, your HGV drivers, your rep, upon delivery of the machine. And once, in the older days, once this had actually happened, some employers wrongly believed that they had provided adequate training at this time, which was completely wrong. This eventually spurred on the advent of the MEWP training programs that we see today around the UK and across the world, and IPAF, International Powered Access Federation, being the biggest provider of this. And what I must emphasise is that, and unfortunately it still does get bounded about, familiarisation, it is not training. I've so many times, oh yeah, we trained the guys this morning. How did you train? Oh, the driver dropped it off and he showed them around the machine. That is not training. So I'm sure probably teaching you to suck eggs here, but a lot of you possibly already know that anyway. But just to re-emphasize it. So, when we look at our objectives when we consider familiarization, without stating the obvious, we need to become familiar with it. All right, but looking into this, it may just be a specific area that of a machine or a device that you want to become familiar with. If we take this in our everyday lives, what about our laptop that you're in front now? I got a new laptop earlier this week and it's taken me a day to get familiar with it, different keys, different places. But look at your home life, a TV, look at, Xboxes, PlayStation, you become familiar with these things. But when we put this into a machine, it may well be that, we were trained on a relatively small scissor or a relatively smallish boom, simple boom, and the ground controls may be, inherently the same on another machine. However, they could be completely poles apart. So we could have ground controls or safety systems on a MEWP which are completely different. So hence why we do need familiarization. So as it says there, to make familiar as with a particular subject. It might be ground, it might be tires, it might be, secondary guarding, it could be all sorts. But it's also to make something generally known or accepted. Now, MEWPs themselves have undoubtedly made working at heights safer, and they've certainly reduced accidents. But as you all know, they also come with their own risk and liability. So I want you to consider that when you hire in your own MEWPs, do you consider and treat them as normal hired-in plant? No disrespect, it's a dumper, it's a roller, it's a jenny, it's a mini excavator. In my view, MEWPs should be considered as a specialist area, and these require dedicated, passionate people who are knowledgeable and experts on MEWPs. In my opinion, these are not just another piece of hired-in plant. Okay, so you may be contentious there, some of you might agree or disagree with me there, but that's my view on them. So, when we look at the definitions and look at the actual definitions that came out of ISO 18878 and BS 8460, it says there, the demonstration of the control functions, safety devices and specific features of a particular model of a MEWP to a trained operator. So that's what 18878 says. Yet when we look at 8460, provision of information of use and demonstration of the controls and characteristics of a specific MEWP to a potential operator. So it doesn't say that that person has to be a trained operator. Now, whenever, before we authorize, and this is one thing that you need to, obviously, I'm sure you address this, but before we even authorize somebody to operate a particular make or model of a MEWP, that operator should have been familiarized by somebody and that person should be a qualified person. But the MEWP should also then it should be spelled out to them, the warnings and instructions. Now I can take you to some operators manuals that have 10-15 pages of warnings and instructions. The control functions that's specific to that particular MEWP. The function of each safety device, the location. All right, so these are things that we need to be 100% aware of prior to getting into the machine. Also as well, familiarization has also been known as handover. So when we say, has it been handed over this morning, that's generally what we accept. So the IPAF familiarization statement, this has done the rounds since 2007. Had a bit of a tweak a few years ago, and basically changed the way in which handovers or familiarizations were conducted. A notable point in that statement states that it should follow on from basic training. Now, search within yourselves here. How many of you think that you put operatives on a machine and he's a MEWP operator? Yeah, and he goes away and, I put him on the course. He's trained, he can use MEWPs. In my experience, that is far from where we should be. In my experience, often it wasn't, taking that operator and putting them on that one machine. They learn like we would do when we drove our car, when we learn our car. You learn when you have passed your test. We're giving them the basics to actually learn them and teach them and instruct them how to use that machine properly. So when we go back into a familiarization scenario, in my experience, it wasn't often carried out as effective as it could have been. It was rushed and often not confirmed properly. There was no confirmation by the operator. If we look at things like, it might be necessary to get the operator to fully understand the machine for the simple fact that they need a bit of space. They need a bit of space to operate the machine, to up, down, left, right, forward, backwards, find out what the machine does. What happens when the machine is slewed through 45 degrees to the drive? What about when it's through 90 degrees? What about when it's 180 degrees? That's okay when the machine is lowered, but it will often operate totally differently when it's elevated. What is the stopping distance of the machine when it's in the elevated drive mode? Or equally when it's actually lowered down and fully stowed, because the poles apart. A lot of controls now offer dual action or even tri-action proportional control movement. So one control can do 3 or 4 operations. Emergency lowering systems, where is it located? Is it manual? Is it auxiliary? Does it use a battery power? Bearing in mind that whenever we kind of familiarize, or if we look at familiarizing an operator, he's the last person that possibly needs to know how the emergency rescue controls work at the ground. He certainly needs to know about them, but he's going to be reliant upon somebody on the ground to get them down if it all goes a bit pear-shaped. So managers should not expect operators to operate an unfamiliar machine without giving them time to familiarize themselves first. And this is true because a plant operator, when I was operating plant, I'd be on it 10-12 hours a day. And that was my job. When I was using MEWPs, or when operators are using the MEWPs, they're not using it for that sole purpose 99% of the time. A lot of them are electricians, plumbers, joiners, ceiling fixers. So they're jumping from one trade to another. They're using it as a tool to get them to where they need to go to. So as it states on the familiarization statement, it should follow on from basic training and cover the instructions and warnings, what features, what the control functions that are specific to that model of MEWP, the function of each safety device, and the emergency lowering procedures. Now, that is freely available from the IPAF website. I'm sure quite a few of you have seen it in the past. It gets used quite frequently, on safety courses, MEWPs for managers courses, them sort of things. So just make sure you're aware of that and really what it's trying to say to there, because it does say there, with characteristics of weight, height, width, length, or complexity, which differ significantly the training they have received. So we teach somebody on a 19-foot scissor that's 1.2 ton, and then we chuck them on a 12-ton scissor lift, that's 5 times the size, more controls, jack legs, etc., etc. So hopefully I'm trying to paint you a little bit of a picture there. Okay, so your legal responsibilities. So, without stating the obvious, we have to train people to operate MEWPs, and there's various training courses out there. I've mentioned IPAF earlier, which is by far the biggest training provider of MEWP-related training out there. Other, as we often see here on the radio, other training courses are available. But we still have people contact us daily, who do not understand that they need training on the MEWPs. And this particular slide that you can see at the moment is taken off the HSC's website. So, basically ripped off the HSC's website. It's paraphrased. All cards should be checked: accuracy, categories, expiry date. We get many incidents. I need them training tomorrow because they've forgotten that the cards have run out. So again, it's making sure that we're up to date. But then it says operators, in addition to formal training for the type of MEWP, operators should have familiarization training on controls and operation of a specific make and model of MEWP they are using. So even though you read it again, it says the word training, familiarization training. My HSC friends, if you are listening, I know some of you are registered, I will re-emphasize that familiarization is not training. So why it states that on there, I'm not certain, because we wouldn't class that as training. So we know then traditionally the HGV driver showed the operators around the machine, and the delivery note was often signed to confirm acceptance of the machine. Now this was fine as it stood, but no disrespect to a HGV driver, and I'm picking on them. I'm doing a lot of work with them at the moment. They have a physically tough job, demanding, stressful. And unfortunately, in some cases, and due to pressure, we found that familiarizations was either rushed, missed crucial information, people weren't available, but whatever that level of familiarization it was done at the time by the driver, it was often subjective. After all, again, and as I stressed earlier, this isn't and wasn't their core competency job role. So, the fact that they were asked to do it was just another part of their duty, and they were doing it to safeguard and to make the company and their jobs. We know machines are still now delivered in the early hours of the morning, often late at night. They're often signed for by somebody who's never even going to use a machine, like a security guard, and that would be the best scenario. But unfortunately, sometimes they're left in a car park, side of the road, and totally, the keys in the black box, the keys on the wheel. We've heard it all before. With the greatest will in the world, it only takes an incident on the motorway to potentially delay an operator or delay the delivery of the machine, to cause issues where potentially operators couldn't be or wouldn't be familiarized, which is delays. So HGV drivers, then they have got more deliveries, they've got collections, they've got the mobile phone ringing or the radio ring, calling saying, look, where are you at the next delivery or collection? So as you could probably appreciate, they sometimes felt a little bit pressured to do it quickly. When we think about how we're going to do it, who we're going to do it to, and when it's going to be conducted, we've got to think of all sorts of things like, was it going to be conducted in a safe area? Was there no distractions? Was it the correct people I'm familiarising it to? I've done thousands of familiarisations over my years, and I've had people turn up and they were never even going to use the machine. It's just, oh, there's a machine being delivered today. We'll chuck you on the familiarisation. Why? We were offering it at the time, the company I worked for, free of charge, and yet you've got people turning up there that were never intending on using it. What paperwork we're going to use it. All IPAF trained operators, when they finish their course, receive an IPAF logbook. That is where the familiarisation should be recorded and logged. Now, IPAF is doing quite a lot of work at the moment to potentially looking at digital logbooks and also maybe an app very shortly, where we can instead then use a digital way of recording that. Nobody wants to pay for it, but they often expect it as part of the hire agreement. Accept that. So again, cost side of things, we've got to always factor that in. And even ourselves, we trained our own MEWP account managers to be able to provide familiarisation. But again, this isn't and wasn't their core competency. They're account managers. They're going out and ensuring getting the right machine. So in essence, then, this handover covered your legal responsibilities, it covered our legal responsibilities, and in 99% of the time probably often led to the machine being used without any issue. But in the advent this year of the new health and safety sentencing guidelines, we can see that the law and the HSE are tightening up, and we've got to be mindful of that. I will re-emphasise that being one of the original committee members who worked on the familiarisation guidance back in 2006, 2007, that, as it says at the bottom, there's still no reason why a trained operator cannot self-familiarise themselves and ensure that they understand the important points of the machine prior to using that. Okay, so under section 3, duty of care to other people's employees. So this is our duty of care. It shall be our duty of every employer to conduct his undertaking in such a way to ensure it's reasonably practicable that persons not in his employment who may be affected thereby are not exposed to the risks of health and safety. So basically it's interpretation saying the manufacturer or hire company who supply that MEWP must provide all the information necessary to ensure that the user is not exposed to any risks of danger when the platform is used correctly. So it basically comes into section 6C of the HSE, of the Health and Safety Work Act, supplying adequate information. To fulfil the owner's responsibilities under pure regulations, every employer should ensure that all persons who use work equipment have adequate health and safety information and, where appropriate, written instructions pertaining to the use of that work equipment. So that's where we come into our operator's manual. And then we, of course, have the IPAF demonstrators course. So this is a person who is already an operator. They do the additional one-day IPAF demonstrator course, and then that gives them the skills and the tools to be able to familiarise operators. Not a common course, used to be years ago, kind of died a bit of a death in that sense. So just be wary of that. For any of you that work on Build UK sites, do be mindful that there is a requirement for familiarisation in their, what they call their CIP Blue Book, their Bible. So just be mindful of that, so don't get caught by that. So our journey then, so where do we start off? So let's get into the crux of this. Where it all started. So we engaged, I say quite a few years ago now, we engaged with MEWP manufacturers and IPAF at various levels, The industry itself expressed an interest in quick familiarization documents. Anybody who's ever picked up a manual note, an operator's manual can note they can be. I've seen operators' manuals 280 pages long. So you can see why the industry was screaming out for some sort of quick familiarization document, much like an airplane style leaflet document that you would get in the front of the seat before you take off, telling you about the emergency and this sort of thing. And generally it was thought it was a good idea, and unfortunately nothing came of it. So we contacted manufacturers, we spoke to IPAF in that sense, and both of them recognised it was a very big challenge, but unfortunately unwilling to commit to. And it was always the same answer. The information is contained in the operator's manual, but we know that we don't read the manuals. In 2016, we saw the release of a series of posters under the Andy Access brand, and one of the first ones that came out was Know Your Machine, which you can see there on the right-hand side. These are available from the IPAF website. Know Your Machine is about familiarising preventive incorrect use. So naturally, we decided this wasn't good enough, and as a business decided to do it on our own and look at it. So in 2014, I was tasked and set off on a journey from the AFI directors to start storyboarding our AFI group of machines and come up with a strategy to overcome this. So just looking at that, that's the ground controls on a Genie 135. So you might be fortunate enough to get the ground controls at the bottom or the top. All right, there you go. So that's not for the faint-hearted if you don't know what you're doing. And an example of the post there, and it shows the Andy Access, but it shows the operator scratching their head. So now our rationale basically was, in the UK we have between 55 and 60,000 MEWPs, and as expected there are countless different controls, safety devices, emergency lowering systems on different machines. Only in the last couple of years really have, through lobbying and meetings and HSE documents that have arrived, have MEWP manufacturers started to get a little bit closer together on controls with some degree of consistency, but that's their machines that are in the future. We've got a lot of historical legacy machines that we're going to have old controls. I doubt we'll ever reach a point of complete uniformity. I think to do so would kind of stifle innovation and wouldn't be a very good thing for the industry. So in truth, we know that a lot of the MEWP manuals, and when I looked at this, manuals were seldomly used. It's in the box referred to, when it all goes wrong, and that many rescue plans that I have seen often refer to this document in its execution. And I'll power this phrase. I borrowed this off somebody the other day. When the fertilizer hits the cooling device, one thing to bear in mind is that 99% of the MEWPs that we own and rent out, the operator's manual is located in the platform. So often this is going to be in the elevated position. So in a rescue scenario, that manual is not going to be able to be referred to. Rescuers on the bottom, on the ground, could be potentially putting people at risk by operating the wrong control, not knowing what they're doing. Time wasting effectively can lead to dangerous times for the occupants in the platform. When we looked at some of the incidents that we have, and we do have them, having thousands of machines, incidents, it always astounds me. People, jump into a machine and they don't check safety systems on the MEWPs. And I'm not just meaning here emergency lowering systems, I'm meaning hold to run devices, foot enable switches, buttons. A foot enable. Let's take a foot enable switch. Those of you who have operated a platform before, you're climbing the platform, you've done all your bits and bobs at the ground, you climb into the platform and you put your foot on the foot switch and you press the drive controller to drive forward. An example, yeah. What you shouldn't do is put your foot on the foot switch, but you should operate the controller to drive forward and drive backwards. Because you've not got your foot on the foot switch, it shouldn't drive. So you know that foot switch is effectively doing its job. But many people don't do that. But then we look at other safety critical items such as maybe extending axles, pothole protection, and outreach limitation systems. There's loads of different types. So I identified groups of machines, their manufacturers, the models, what controls. That was a painful scenario. I didn't have a grey hair on my head until I started this part. Safety systems they are, which wasn't too bad. Emergency lowering systems, reasonably okay. Categories fine, and we've included, of course, secondary guarding where appropriate and applicable to our machines. We engaged, we had to engage with the creative design fill companies. Preparing them, we had to find film companies who could carry out this type of work. And little did I know that, you know, the filming was probably going to be the least of my worries. It was the editing of the films and the final approvals at the end being the most challenging point. But then what we did use was latest camera video technology. We used the point of cameras. We're probably all familiar with a GoPro now, so multiple GoPros and also multiple location techniques. Some good examples of the camera not on my head but on the machine to give you an idea of height and scope. And then, you know, because of the machines the way they are, we used a bit of colour and creativity to highlight safety critical points to the user, and of course, as expected, they would be in full high definition. So this very proud to say that on the 6th of June we launched a range of films, familiarization films, which will we believe revolutionise the way in which MEWP operators familiarise themselves. These are a first in the UK working in the height sector. There are manufacturers that have done some familiarization films, and good on them, but there's very, very few of them. Okay, so as you can see there's just an aspect from our website there, so you can see there the 98% of the fleet is there. There's the odd one or two machines which are out on 2 or 3 year hires that will never come back to us in that sense. They're an example of that. So you can see they have highlighted skyjacks. And there you go. We've already had, in the first month we've had over 1,800 films viewed, which I was really, really pleased, and I found, quite positive. And naturally we've had feedback from our customers. It's certainly making life a little bit easier for some of our account managers, as one would expect. So again, let's look at the plan. How are we going to deliver this to you? We thought about how, and again, we thought about how we're going to actually put it on the machine. So, it was naturally a QR code, and we've positioned our QR code, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. Now I'll zoom in that in a little bit later, near the ground emergency controls. When scanned with a QR reader, which you can typically get off Apple, Android, or other devices, it will automatically play the film. We also have the ability to put that on our delivery note, and we've done tests recently as well where we know that push notification is coming. So Mr. Smith hires a machine from us, he's hired the machine from us, he's got his confirmation of his order, and straight away he will get his push notification of his machine to tell him there's the familiarization of films that he needs. They're naturally going to be on our AFI web portal, our YouTube site. The web portal is where customers log in. They will have a login and they can see all their accounts on there. So once you hired your machine from us, you can see which machines you get. You get the QR code. As I said, our AFI YouTube site, and we've recently just launched an AFI app. The AFI app has all the familiarization films on it. When we look down at the film, the QR code, you can see there on the left-hand side in the red box, we've got the QR code, and this is for a Genie Z 4525. It's diesel, it's got a jib, and the S stands for secondary guarding, and it's, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can see there, and I don't know if you can see it, it's probably a little bit blurred, but you can see there that it actually covers you for a range of other machines. They're essentially the same, so you might get the odd little control that's different. It's probably going to be 0.1% where you're going to find that it's not there, but again, it's not going to be safety critical. So we decided then as a group to make the films available to all. All right, so what that means then, even if you do not hire from us, you are still able to use these. I think morally it was the right decision, because we shouldn't just have our people that hire from us protected on machines. Everybody needs to be protected and familiarised on the machines. As I said, the QR, good example of the app there on the right side, so using a smartphone or a tablet on the AFI website. Now the films are updatable online, so there is no ability to download them. As you would expect as changes are made, as a machine might get secondary guarding installed on it, we can then update them, and that's going to cause no end of problems if they've been downloaded. The last thing I need is that causing an issue to our customers. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense in that the AFI app, you just go and find it and you can download it, and then when you click on the little bars on the top left there, then you will see the familiarization films down the side, and select your films and away you go. Okay, so the contents of the main films then. So we start off with a disclaimer, as you would expect. We then cover the IPAF familiarization statement, please bear with us on that. We have to do that. It's a legal side of things. And then we really go into introduction to the machine, the specific features, etc. You know, the specification of the machine. I then kind of go through a pre-use. I say kind of. Well, I go through a pre-use check, but you know, we're not. Again, we're just reminding people of what they should be checking prior to use. And then we go through the function checks, the ground. Once we've done the function checks on the ground, we then go through emergency lowering from the ground. Likewise, platform, emergency lowering platform, parking and securing, and then we cover secondary guarding as appropriate. Now, when I'm doing the films, and I've done them all for the group, there's also things that we cover, such as hydraulic ramping, what to do in the event of a fault, what safety critical checks, how we extend and how we retract the axles on the machine, pothole protection, how this works. All right, so these are things that, you know, I think really does set us apart with these films. So just to give you a little bit more of an idea as well, emergency lowering. When we do the emergency lowering, it covers the ground controls and auxiliary or manual systems, but it also covers the platform controls, auxiliary and manual systems. Now it says where appropriate, because not all machines can be emergency lowered from the ground. So I'll just play this. I didn't choose the music, by the way. Okay, so yeah, as I said, I didn't choose the the music. But one thing I will say there is what you noticed there, that was an emergency lowering film. So what we decided to do was to extract the emergency lowering out of the main film. So not only have you got the familiarization film, but you've also got the emergency lowering for the film. So we believe that this is, you know, sets us apart from anything else in our films. So clients and contractors, you can also add the link to your website. They can be used by contractors as part of their method statement to highlight that they've taken steps to ensure correct machine MEWP familiarization. The emergency plans, instead of them being a pictorial, these are visual and accurate. And benefits of familiarization. You think about it. How many times have you hired a machine and it's broke down, only to find later on it was actually operator error? And I'll give you an example. You know, not being able, you know, we get the call, the boom won't lift on a machine. So, you know, we try and talk through things, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't get to any fixing of the machine. So we have to send an engineer out, only to find, you know, that the axles have not been extended. You know, so you've got the 2 hours the engineer has to go out, the half an hour that you've been on the phone. Times that by 4 people who are sat around now because they can't operate the machine, and the crane that's sat there. So we believe that our you know, and looking at our stats, 30% of our breakdowns are down to operator error. So you know, marginally, you can save a lot of money by ensuring that these films are used to help you. But the bit I wanted to show there is that the full machine familiarization, and one of my longest films is 28 minutes long. It's got to be 28 minutes long because it can't be any shorter. It's a beast of a machine. But its familiarization is 3 minutes. The emergency lowering is 3 minutes long. So, you know, how to get this machine down takes me 3 minutes, and we think that's really good. So again, I mentioned earlier that we have the ability now to push notify out these, or going to have this ability to push notify out these once you've hired the machine. I think this is going to be really important for yourselves going forwards. So I'm just going to pause that there. 9 times out of 10 when you see this machine, and this is a beast of machine, often the axles are in the extended position and the platform has been used. Okay, the operator will come down, you know, they'll probably possibly go and refuel, whatever, and then, you know, off shift and away they're home, they go for the night. 9 times out of 10 they will not put them, I say probably 10 times out of 10, they will not put them axles back in unless they have to go through a narrow area or until it's been collected. A safety critical test has not been done on that machine because the axles have not come back to that position. And if you remember back to the start of the film, I tried to elevate and telescope out, and it wouldn't do that because the axles were not in the open or extended position. So again, that's just to show you the depth of the technical side of things that we've gone into with these films. Stalled again. No sound. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't know what happened there. I suppose that's a technical aspect of doing a live webinar. Right, okay. Let's see if I can play that again. Dare I play it again? No, it doesn't like that one. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so the Genie film didn't, it does work online, trust me, but yeah, I don't know what, I think I'm Cat 5'd in, so I can only presume it was we have got a different weather at where I am at the moment, so maybe it's got to do something with the climate we have got at the moment, so just let me go back to the system. Okay, so you can see there that was an example of an emergency lowering extracted. Again, that film typically is around about sort of 12 to 15 minutes long, but then we've got the emergency lowering aspect extracted for you. Okay, so on our website then you will see examples there of the machine. If I just go zoom back into there, we've seen that already. If you go to the health and safety tab, you'll see that inside there. Okay, once you click on a machine and then you log into a machine, you will have the option then of picking two machines and you can, two films, and you can see there your familiarization video on the left and your emergency lowering video on the right. And you can see that this machine is good for a nifty lift 10, 10S, 12 and a 12ND ES. Okay, so again, really easy to read and to navigate around that. On the phone app, typically you'll find they are underneath each other, so reasonably okay. As I mentioned earlier, these films are available at them websites, and you can see there we've got different machines, different availability. Okay, so we've also got introduced our little flyer there, so it gives you an idea there of the QR code. So scanning the QR code, as you can see in the center there, visiting the website to view the videos and the machine that it actually covers. You can see there, watching the video will cover pre-use inspection, control functions, safety devices, emergency procedures, and the documentation of the machine. When we look at the actual machine, and you can see this part of the other flyer there, you can see there that we've highlighted a couple of areas on the machine. But I just want you to focus on the center there. It says there this is an IAPA award-winning safety. So International Awards for Powered Access. We won this in 2016 in March for our contribution to safe working at height. It's been said that these have changed the game effectively in terms of familiarization. So when I look at the machine now, one of the things that we took, and there's one of our machines there on site, we took the decision then to put the QR code very close to the emergency lowering. Now I know that's pixelated, but you can also see it up on the top scissor arm as well, one of the top scissor arms, because we're mindful that when that machine if we'd have put that on the outside, when you'd elevated the machine up, you wouldn't be able to access the QR code. So we took the decision not only to put one QR code, but two QR codes. So the bottom QR code, should something go tragically wrong, we can then actually get into there and use the emergency lowering to get the person down. And it is also a reminder there to keep this part of the machine accessible. So in other words, we don't go and put that on the wall side, because therefore then you're preventing anybody from actually getting to the ground controls. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully that makes it's a little bit pixelated. It's just a PDF that's been blown up. So what's next then? I basically start our familiarization films for our self-drive truck and track mounted MEWPs next month. So storyboarding for these type of things, and these are our self-drive machines. So these I would anticipate they're going to take best part of sort of 2 months to complete, and then these will be then available for you for those of you that drive that operate the trucks and the tracks. Okay then, to summarize then, so familiarization is not training. Operators should have familiarization on the controls and operation of the specific model and make and model of MEWP that they are using. Remember that MEWP controls will differ from manufacturer to manufacturer. We've strategically positioned the QR code near the ground emergency controls, and all films, no matter what they do, what they are going to cover pre-use checks, function checks, and parking and securing. All of them are available on our website. Now, I've mentioned here earlier, and I just want to really summarize something and really highlight something about using smart devices. In truth, I probably don't see them being used that often with a mobile phone. I think the people will try it because it's new and yeah, that works, yeah. We've seen QR codes on your Sainsbury's and your Tesco's and your Asda's bottles of milks and whatever, but I believe that these will be more used in induction rooms. The machine's coming on site tomorrow, boys and girls. This is your machine. There's your QR code. I'm going to get you to watch the machine, watch the film. Okay, sign here to say that you've watched it. When it arrives tomorrow, then we're going to go out and just sort of put into practice what we've learned today. Okay, but you may also have in that room, 1 or 2 MEWP rescuers, and then people are, not necessarily trained people, you can then also then use the emergency lowering video to again show that you've given emergency lowering familiarization to these people too. So I think that's really important. Yes, they probably will get it. I've had it before. We don't allow mobile phones on site. I accept that, all right, but I do believe that we are going to get more to use them on smart TVs, you know, and on you know, and inductions with projectors, etc. So just a Q&A. Just wondered if anybody has any questions. I can see somebody said there, cannot hear the sound on the video. Again, I don't know if it's just the climatic round here. When you look at them on the film, they are very, very loud. Again, somebody's put there no sound. I don't know what that is, but hopefully you can see the visual, the audio didn't detract from what the sound was. They're very informative, the videos. So again, hopefully you know, that hasn't detracted from your sitting here today. Has anybody got any other questions? I can't see any questions coming through or anything like that. I think you're being easy with me or good on me. Sometimes I'll get sort of 5 or 6, 7 questions. But like I said earlier, some of you may not want to put your questions on here, and I completely respect that. So if you haven't got a question or you feel that you want to send me a question afterwards, then please feel free to do so. I'll leave my email on there and that for sort of 5-10 minutes so you can take them down. And again, if you've got any comments, questions, thoughts, feedback, you know, please please let me know. As you can see there, we'd like to think what you thought of the webinar. Hopefully it's been informative. It is something new. It is something that's a first for the industry. We certainly believe that we're improving safety, and more importantly, it's free to you. It doesn't cost you anything, so you can download. So you can get onto the download the app and watch the films. Download the app and then watch them. But remember, these films are not downloadable. This webinar, I've got a question from Paul there. Yes, it will be available. What will happen after this is I stop the recording, it sends it into a file, and then basically what I'm thinking, our marketing department is intending on getting these over to you Thursday/Friday. Somebody's put there, right, got a couple of questions now. Could the iPath log, I presume that's, could the iPath logbook not be replaced with a digital item to auto-log? I think that's coming. I was in a meeting the other day, training committee meeting, and it was expressed there will be a log coming, a digital logbook. I think it's going to be on their app. Okay, so who's asked that? I think that's Jamie that's asked that. So thanks for that, Jamie. Will there be any information on types of fall arrest equipment to be used with each MEWP? In the film, I go through, and I didn't actually show them on that, but it will tell you what type of harness and lanyard that you should be wearing. So yes, that's covered. Would you make these for other languages? You're not the first one that's asked that, Zoe. I asked that question to a director the other day, and I was glad I was on the ground floor. Otherwise, I think if the window had been open, I think I'd have been launched out of it. I think that is something I believe that we, you know, whether or not we have to then go and look down the most common languages that are in the UK, you know, your Polish, you know, your Romanian, your German, etc. You know, I think, you know, in time that might happen. There's certainly there's no thought in doing it at this very moment in time. Okay, so we've got another question here. Hi Brian, what does the familiarization charge cover? I'm not sure I understand your question there, Chris. There's no charge for the films. So effectively you can use these films as many times as you want. All you have to do is log on to the website. Okay, right. Thank you very much. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Sorry for that little technical glitch in the middle of a film, but yeah, learn a little bit more by watching the actual film. Then you'll see what I was covering there. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.